Good evening and welcome to our September Amherst Affordable Housing Trust meeting. Thanks to those of you in the audience and to our members. I guess we're still maybe give a minute to see if some of our other members join. But we do have a quorum. So let's just wait one more minute. Thank you everyone for being with us on Zoom. Well, why don't we go ahead and get started, and we will hope that our remaining members join shortly. So let's tell you all we're making a few minor updates to the sequence of the agenda for this evening. We have Laura Baker from CDC here to give us some updates, and so we're looking forward to hearing from her shortly. And we have invited our friends in Amherst from the Visioning Project, which has deployed their energy towards housing, and we're really excited to hear about that and how we can work together. And we're also excited to have Linda Slakey from the Amherst Community Land Trust with us to tell us about opportunities and to work together and projects that are developing right now. So Greg, for introductions, can you what were you imagining?
Oh, I think you've done well noting our guests, and I guess we're at the point now where I think trust members have all seen each other before, so we don't need to do that. But maybe that was muscle memory. But if we want to get into liberatory visioning, I can kind of tee that up and
Okay.
Pamela and Philip. Or...
Oh, okay, great. And just to our members on Zoom who haven't joined us since we have new members, I'm delighted that we are joined this evening by Rob Allingham and Bob Pomeroy, in addition to Allegra Clark and Alex Cox, who have been, I've been with them now for a little while. And so, yes, please, do you want to promote the Visioning Project?
So I'm going to welcome Pamela Young and Philip Avila and promote you both as panelists. So Pamela and Philip, look out for a notice on your screen to join the conversation as a panelist. And I'll just note that Pamela and Philip are my esteemed colleagues in town, and we're kind of played a very hands-on role in this liberatory visioning project, which we're going to hear about jointly. Pamela as director and Philip as assistant director. They run the town's DEI department and are doing a lot of great work, around sort of, exploring inclusion in our community and sort of widening the breadth of participation, and also sort of really letting encouraging efforts to inform our work as a town, as a government, as a community. This was a really cool example of this liberatory visioning project of that work. So I'm excited to hear about it. Let's see, do we have our guests here? And we have Pamela and Philip. Welcome. So if I missed any key introductory points, by all means, Pamela or Philip, please let us know. But I'd love to hand it off to you. And this is a big project, but as the Housing Trust, as we noted, we're interested in to hear about the whole thing, but also how these housing priorities might have bubbled up and go from there. I'm going to stop sharing my agenda here and give it to you.
No, thank you, Greg. No missed introductions. Really appreciate that. We have a quick little presentation that we would like to share with you
And
all.
do you have an option to share, or do I need to?
It looks like
There
I
you
do.
go.
Let's
Beautiful.
try and do that. I remember how to do so this late in the day here. Let's see, where do I start?
I think you want slideshow, maybe.
Yep, that's it. Alrighty, so as we stated, the liberatory visioning process here. I am Philip Avila. Just want to throw that in there. Pamela is also on the call here. So the liberatory visioning timeline began in 2021 through the Community Safety Working Group recommendation. In 2022, our department was created. In 2023, Dr. Love trained the first group of facilitators. 2023 to 2024, the facilitators held a bi-monthly community dialogue session, which is continuously going on from this. 2024, Dr. Love conducted a second round of facilitation for trainers. 2025, from February to May, we had about 20 listening sessions held, really getting what that was about. And then from 2020 or in May of 2025, the final report was given to us.
Right, so the final report, I think you all have had a chance to review it on the DEI department website, or we can send a hard copy over for you. The liberatory visioning listening sessions consisted of 20 in-person, online, and individual interviews. Sessions were held in Town Hall, the Banks Community Center, at various houses of worship, with high school students and seniors, and with BIPOC organizations. We made an attempt to reach as many folks in town as we could and to have these sessions around the community in as many places as possible. And we were quite pleased with our turnout.
So through those listening sessions, we kind of asked a baseline question of what does an equitable, just, and inclusive Amherst look like to you? And so then from there, we kind of went off into discussions. As you all saw through the report, housing came up, so we're going to highlight some themes through this presentation of what themes came up from housing, and then just kind of the sub-themes a part of that. So expansion of affordable housing, and some sub-themes there were updates to the housing production plan, zoning reforms such as reducing single-family zoning, increase the supply of affordable housing units for low and moderate income residents, specific strategies to address housing exclusion and affordability, and new incentives for affordable housing development.
One of the other things was around first-time home buyer assistance programs to help low and moderate income residents purchase homes and increasing access to housing. And I'm sure you all are very familiar with the statistics, but it's worth repeating. So the average cost of a home in Amherst is over $530,000, while the mean income for a person in Amherst is only at $65,000. So housing affordability is a critical issue for many of the people who reside in the community.
So the next theme that came up was student and family housing balance, recognition of the need for both student and family housing, develop solutions that balance the needs of university students with those from year-round residents, promoting university-built student housing, and regulating rental practices to prevent overcrowding and exploitation.
So one of the major themes that came out through these conversations was to have community-led policy development. And that is a theme that resonated not only around the issues of housing, but other areas of concern. Oop. Hello?
Yep, you're there.
Okay, my screen just went black for a second. All right. So not only having community voices around issues, policy development around housing, but also around a lot of other issues that were raised through the report. We know as a town department that it can be difficult sometimes when you're seeking feedback from members of the community to get really meaningful feedback, but we just would want to encourage you to continue to make every effort to do that. One of the things that we would love for people to take advantage of are translation services that can be offered to the community through our office, through an earmark from Mindy Dom, through the health department, and through the purchase of translators through the use of ARPA funds. So as you're thinking about ways in which you can reach the community, think very broadly, use our services. We have a newsletter, use Crest. They're also willing to help spread the word and engage with individuals around not only issues of public safety, but also other community concerns, and use our translation services. One shameless plug that I'll put in now is that we're hoping to continue the work of liberatory visioning by applying for a grant through a private foundation called the Heart and Soul Communities. And the purpose of Heart and Soul Communities is to have resident-driven policy decisions and civic engagement. So that would be another opportunity to learn more about the needs and desires of members of the community.
Alrighty, and the last theme here for housing is year-round shelter and social services. So establishing a permanent year-round shelter for unhoused residents and expanding access to social services for unhoused residents. And I just want to highlight through the liberatory visioning process, we also conducted a ton of just outreach and interviews with everybody, and kind of said, as well as when we were asking the baseline question there of, we weren't going to give any identifiers or identifications as to anybody that said anything. And so really having that trust in the community was well received on this project, and we really appreciate the community for trusting us and doing so. And so just to be able to then openly share, their feelings about what it is that they would like to talk about. And that was great to see the community come about.
And so this last slide just lifts up the 3 most requested action items from the Liberatory Visioning Project. The need for community space, support for education, and of course, our topic tonight, affordable housing. And I just want to encourage you, as you're thinking about future housing projects, that you also think about creating projects that provide community space, because those 2 things can be linked. And one of the things that we heard over and over again in our conversations was a need for people to gather and to get to know each other and have an opportunity to really establish strong relationships. So thank you again for having us, and we're happy, Philip and I, to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you so much for joining us and for all the work that you're doing, actually bringing people's voices out. We're grateful to have you. So members, what questions do you have? What ideas would you like to present and get some feedback from Pamela and Philip about? Allegra, please.
Hi, thank you guys for coming tonight and for sharing this information with us. I think it's really telling that many of the other agencies in town have also found affordable housing to be a primary concern. Thinking about the reparations committee as well, and a lot of their work centering on housing. So I guess my question is, what happens next with these recommendations? I mean, I think we've been doing a lot of studies, on the housing front, on the racial justice front, and all of these are important, but where do we what's the next push for this, and how do we continue to bring the community voice to the places that are making the decisions beyond just this group, but kind of the bigger groups in town?
So the report has been given to the town manager, and it would be his responsibility to bring it forward to the town council. We'd love to have the town council invite our department in to talk about this report, as well as a few others that we've worked on last year. The next action step that we will take as a department is to pursue this Heart and Soul Community Grant. The grant, in my opinion, aligns very well with the work of Liberatory Vision. It is community resident driven work. It anticipates a collaboration between members of the public, nonprofit organizations, for-profit organizations, and municipal government. The way in which the Heart and Soul organization sets up these communities or supports their communities. It's a 2-year commitment to work with them as they, as Amherst would establish this Heart and Soul Foundation. We've see ourselves as a department as conveners of this group, and would anticipate at some point within the 2 years or at the end of the 2 years, it would be a separate organization outside of municipal government, because it is really meant to be community driven, resident driven, and outside of the public sector. So I think that's the next big step for us. We are hoping that we will tie up a few loose ends and be able to apply for the grant in October. If that's the case, then it's likely we will to launch the next segment of our work probably in January, and then would have a 2-year period of working with them. We're more than happy to send you all information about Heart and Soul, and we would love to have the support of this board or as we apply for the grant, because we'll be seeking letters of support from organizations in the community and from town boards as well. And Philip, please weigh in if I missed
No,
anything.
you covered it. You're good.
Thank you for that.
We'll be happy to provide support. Just let us know, Pamela. Thank you for that opportunity. I guess I'll jump in with a question. I'm not seeing another hand. The kind of information and ideas that you were able to pull together is information that the trust should really be keeping up with on a regular basis. And I'm wondering if you have ideas about how our organization can listen better in the community.
So, Philip, please weigh in. As I alluded, getting community feedback is not easy. I mean, it has not been easy for us as well. And I think we all resort as town boards to the typical ways of sending out surveys or asking people to respond to some sort of evaluation. And what this project really envisioned is one-on-one conversations with folks or small groups, really having conversations and listening sessions and focus groups. And so while that is really time consuming and also a lot of, manpower, I would suggest that you use all of the means possible to get that type of information. And I think that you can rely on our department and on the Crest department as partners in seeking information using non-traditional ways.
Yeah, and I think certainly also, when we are doing this grant and have the upcoming work from the Heart and Soul, maybe that's something that we could think about. This is a community-led initiative, right? So maybe we have a topic around housing and really throw those parameters around of, I really do. And in the presentation, I alluded to it. People really felt like, well, I don't want to say anything because I don't want it to be like brought up that like, oh, he said this, she said that, and blah, blah, blah. And so in a way of, having that trust of, yeah, we're here just to take the notes of the themes rather than the anecdotes of, someone said this or someone said that. So having that trust is established through kind of just those initial conversations.
Thank you. Rob?
Hi. Yes, I just have a quick question because I found it very intriguing about the number one request being a community space. Did you get any sort of further information on that? Is that something you're able to elaborate on, what, if that's, people had a vision of what that might look like, or an idea in mind? I would just like to hear a little bit more about that, because it's interesting. That was the main thing that people were looking for in the community.
Yeah, so I'll go first, Pamela, and then if you have
Sure.
anything, you jump in.
Great.
So space around town, I mean, is a commodity. I think even us as a department trying to find space for community programs that we're trying to put together, it's not as easy as one would think. And so in doing so, of course, the community feels so as well. You know, if you have something that you want to put on and you're kind of told like, oh, well, go check this room, go check that room, and everywhere's not available for you that's free, then it becomes, well, now you have to rent out a space, and is that something that you can afford to do as a group? Is that something you can't afford to do as a group? And also, people are just looking for a place to gather. I think that was one of the main things that we heard, is that after the pandemic, or going through the pandemic, a lot of people lost that sense of community. And so people would really like a space just to gather and get in. I mean, even in those listening sessions, one of them that I remember, someone suggested that the DEI office should hold weekly coffee sessions just in our office to have people just have a space to gather. So even as simple as that, you know, people are just looking for somewhere to go to build that sense of community. Of course, the youth, I was privy to do the youth led workshops there with Dr. Levin. A lot of youth brought up the case that, you know, after school, there's nowhere for them to go. There's nothing for them to do. They don't really want to hang out at town hall. The Banks Community Center closes at 4 o'clock. And so where does that leave them, and what does that look like for them? I think in those conversations, especially with the library being reconstructed right now, you know, that was a main issue, that was an easy access place to walk and go to. And right now that's not going to be the case for them for a few years, however long that library project will take.
Yep, I don't have anything to add. I think Philip summarized the concerns well. Yeah.
Okay, great. Bob, please.
Sure. On one of your slides, I forget, you mentioned developing strategies around exclusion and affordability of housing. I'm just wondering, are those things that you've already been doing and that are deeper in the report that you've done, or are those things that you're looking to develop going forward?
So, oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think it's something that we're looking to develop to go further as a community. Not, I think our department would not be the one to take that initiative on.
But you have certainly voices that can contribute to it. So, okay.
Certainly, yes.
Great, thank you.
And any other questions from our group? I guess I have one more little brief question, which would be, do you see how we could deploy our educational mission are there messages that you think the trust can get out to the community?
So I think there are some members of the community who understand what you do and lots of people who do not. The process of buying a house is complex for even individuals who who are savvy and understand the market and real estate and all of that. So anything that you can do to help educate folks about how they can prepare to be homeowners, what are their options for affordable housing, all of those sort of education things I think are really useful and would be helpful and would be welcomed. And just a last shameless plug for us, we're happy to put any of your programming in our newsletter. We have a monthly newsletter that's distributed in the community, and we'd be happy to include that and to promote those events. So.
Yeah, and one thing I'll just add on with the events is that, you know, one thing that we have found is having food available to people that really draws in the crowd there. But also we've heard in previous gatherings that we've had, you know, transportation sometimes is an issue. So making sure that the location is there, or having some type of transportation to there, as well as childcare. Sometimes that's an issue for people to participate in. You know, if it's via Zoom, it's a little bit easier. So just stuff to think about when you're putting on programming.
Thank you so much. It's very, very helpful and definitely part of what we want to do. And we have members who are very committed to the education and outreach. So I guess I would like to thank you for stopping by and for the work that you're doing. And we'll keep you in mind, and I hope you'll keep us in mind as well if we can be of any help to you.
All right. Have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, fantastic. So shall we hear from Laura Baker and an update for the project that they are shepherding?
Yes. And there's Laura. And Laura, I'm going to promote you to a panelist if that's okay. I think I have to for you to show slides. So click on the notice, and here you come. Here's Laura. Here you are. Welcome.
Hey.
And Laura, if you
Thank
could, just introduce yourself. So I'll let you do it. But we have some new members, so it'd be good to
I
for you to,
see that. So my name is Laura Baker. I'm a real estate project manager at Valley Community Development, and I've been coming to these meetings for many years, and I see a lot of new faces, which is kind of exciting. So hello. I'm kind of standing in for Jess Allen, who's the project manager for a development called Amherst Community Homes. Some of you know a lot about it. For some of you, it may be new, but it's a 30 unit development in North Amherst, condominiums that will be sold to first-time home buyers. So I just wanted to grab maybe 5 minutes to present an update to the trust. You've given time and money to help facilitate this project. So we just wanted to kind of share the news about how it's going. So I'm going to share a very brief slideshow. Can you all see that?
Not yet.
Oh,
I think sometimes it takes a minute, Laura. So
okay.
I think
There we
you
go.
There it is. So you just got to go to the slideshow, and you're good.
Don't make me act it out. Okay. How are we doing now?
Great.
Perfect. This is an image. Buildings under construction. Hopefully people know where this is located. It's on a parcel of land, about 9 acres, near Ball Lane. It's abutted by Ball Lane, Pulpit Hill Road, and Montague Road. So we are 25% complete in construction. We are 4 months ahead of schedule. Woo -hoo.
Wow.
We expect homes will be done in sometime in the spring of 2026, and then completing all the site work that summer. We anticipate having the lottery for the home buyers in late winter, early spring 26. We to date have 300, a little more than 300 households who've expressed interest in buying. We have an online form that people can fill out and submit if they have interest. 115 of those households are from Amherst. We have 62 households that are either mortgage ready or expect to be ready by the time we have the lottery, and 29 of those are from Amherst. Our outreach and marketing challenge is really reaching the 100% area median income households. People may recall we have 80% AMI limited homes and 100% AMI. So far, we're seeing more applications come in from that 80% sector, whereas we have 10 homes for that population group, and we have 20 homes for the 100% AMI group. So some strategies that we're deploying include outreach to local workers, and we're doing some direct outreach to homeownership clients of Valleys. And when I finish, I think I would welcome people to give us other suggestions if they have them. So this is kind of where people can get information if they're interested in applying. We do have a website set up. You can fill out your interest form on there, and you can register for an information session. We've already had some information sessions. We're having a strong level of attendance and interest in those sessions. So we have a couple coming up this fall, and we do review not only the project, but a range of issues for first-time home buyers, getting pre-approved, down payment assistance, and training classes. Yep. This is just showing the site. This is taken maybe a week or two ago. You can see that we have multiple buildings going at once. There are a total of 15 buildings. So they build them kind of in a domino pattern. And you see just, foundations in the front. And then you look back and you see, something that's just being framed. And then something that has, the sheathing on the roof. And then to the left of that, something that actually has a roof and windows. People may recall this is a passive house design. And so it features ample windows on the south-facing side. And this is just a picture from the outside and the inside. The houses have front porch entryway areas. We are able to preserve a good chunk of open space on this parcel. And this is just a view looking out one of the windows, which is awesome. And that's it.
Great. So let's have any questions for Laura, and I guess also suggestions about how to target. Can you maybe give us a little bit better sense of the nature of the challenge so we might be able to be helpful?
Well, I will give you, yes. So just to have a frame of reference when we say 100% AMI, currently for a two-person household, that is a little over $96,000. For a four-person household, it's a little over $120,000. And I think one of the challenges we have both with homeownership and rental housing is folks in this income category don't always tune in when they see that affordable housing is advertised because they think it's not them. So there are misperceptions about who can benefit sometimes from affordable housing, what it means. So I think it's making people realize, oh, it's me, I could apply. And then the other challenge is you have a window of affordability. So you can't make too little, you can't make too much. And that is one of the challenges always with the kind of work that we do.
All right. So who has a question or a brainstorm idea for Laura? Hijay, please.
Yeah, thank you, Laura. I'm one of the new members. My name is EJ, just to introduce myself. 4 months ahead of schedule is amazing. Just maybe if there's any sort of just like quick summary of like how that was achieved, that would be just illuminating. Yeah, and kudos to that.
I can take zero credit, but so I think it's really down probably to the quality of the general contractor that we have working on the site. So we have Kiter Builders. They do have an in-house site company, which also may be a benefit in this case in terms of this is a big site, a lot of site work. So the coordination that they're able to achieve, I think it's mostly to their credit.
And then through this process, were there any lessons learned that you think that should be more widely known for a project like this that should be more well known, at least in the building process or planning process?
The building process, the program design.
Or is it like kind of standard fare and things are kind of just going better than usual? Like
With the being ahead of schedule.
Well, not only that, but just in general, like, were there any like interesting lessons already learned that you and the team are taking away from
So
this?
one of my takeaways is when this project was initially planned, the first architectural drawings, they were duplexes. They were not passive solar. And so unless you are very intentional from the early design stage in making a passive solar dwelling, you don't get a passive solar dwelling. So for folks who don't know, passive solar means lots of south-facing glass. You basically stretch your building east-west so you can capture all this sunlight. You minimize the windows on the north, and then you provide shading for those windows on the south side. So the idea is you get sunlight streaming in, solar gain in the winter, and then when the sun is higher in the sky, you have shading. So it's one of the most efficient ways to build for our climate because it really reduces the amount of energy you need to use to heat and cool a building. When we told the architect that we really, really, really wanted it to be passive solar, it was a whole redesign. And so I'm glad we did it. It's possible. It wasn't easy for them to do. And it was harder, but with some, conviction, it can be done. And the people who buy these homes will benefit forever from the fact that that design choice was made.
Thank you.
Sure.
Bob.
Hi, I'm new as well. I'm Bob.
I know. Hi.
Hi. And also less familiar. So a question about the lottery process that you
Sure.
have. You mentioned that a number of the people that are interested are already mortgage ready. I don't know if that's like pre-qualification or pre-approval.
Yeah.
When you get to the actual lottery, is that going to be from a pool of those who are mortgage ready, or is
Yes.
the broader, it's the mortgage ready?
Yes.
So I guess a companion question to that would be for those who are first-time home buyers, but not yet pre-qualified or whatever, are there programs that are assisting them in how to
Yes.
do so? Yeah.
Yes. So we started marketing these homes a while ago. So we really have about a 2-year window to let people know about the program, hopefully bring them into the fold. We have an in-house first-time homebuyer counselor at Valley. So that's the whole idea, is that we expect to have some people who are interested who aren't ready, who with some diligence and training and saving maybe can get ready by the time of the lottery. So you saw that, that 62 households who either are mortgage ready or who look like they can be mortgage ready with some effort by the time of the lottery. Then we'll have folks that just are really not going to be ready, usually because they just don't have nearly enough income. And so we work with those folks to find other affordable rental housing if they don't seem ready for home ownership.
And then I guess sort of like the last question, sort of circling around to how can you reach out to more people? And I'm guessing that you're already doing that. In terms of mortgage lenders, then are they actively promoting, or mortgage lenders in the area at least, are they
Yes.
actively promoting?
Well, we're actively talking to them. I don't know if they're actively promoting it or not.
Yeah.
But yes, that is one channel. Local realtors, local mortgage lenders are folks that we try to reach out to.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Alex.
Yeah, thinking about the outreach component of the families and households that have expressed interest so far, do you have an idea of what's driving most of them to this project? How they're engaging with it, what their entry point is in terms of getting information?
Alex, you may have cut out a little bit. Do you think you can maybe slightly closer to the microphone?
Oh, sorry. I'm on campus. Our
Yeah.
campus Wi-Fi is being fritzy today. Thinking about the families that have expressed interest already, do you know where most of them are approaching this project from? Like, do you have a good idea of how they're hearing about the project and what your most successful outreach has been so far?
I don't personally. I think others do. So that is information that I can go back and send to the partner, to the trust for your next meeting, because I'm sure we're tracking it. I just don't know personally.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, good question, Alex. That will be helpful. All right. Well, Laura, we're really excited and really excited that these homes are going to be ready in the spring, and a lot of people are going to be very lucky to move in.
Thank you. Thank you.
And anything else that we can help with in the meantime, Laura?
I think the main thing is spreading the word and
all right,
and sending people our way.
The easy URL to remember is
ownamherst.com.
ownamherst.com. Okay, everybody, ownamherst.com. Perfect.
Yeah, that will tell you about the program. It will give you that chance to fill out an interest form. And we're really doing that so that then we can have someone reach out one-on-one and talk with each household that's interested, because each situation is unique.
Fabulous.
Thank you for your time. Thanks for making time for this.
Of course. Yeah. Bye-bye. And we're lucky to have a lot of our kind of close stakeholder supporters and friends with us this evening. We are going to welcome, let me look at just get the names right, Linda Slakey and Maura Keene from Amherst Community Land Trust to tell us what their vision is in particular for collaborating with us.
I'm not sure how you said my name because I hit the button.
Okay, yeah, well, I said
hear exactly what you said, whatever you just said.
Okay, Blakey, I said for your last name. Yeah. All right.
So I am the president of the board of the Amherst Community Land Trust and one of its founders. That grand title means that I do a lot of the staff work. We were until the beginning of July a totally volunteer organization. We now have amassed enough reliable funding from various private sources that we were confident enough to hire a half-time staff member. So I can't make a big point of our being all volunteer anymore, but we still do, and like Habitat always will, depend heavily on volunteer labor. So Rob Crowner was a member of this trust for a long time, and he is also a member of the board of ACLT. So when his term came to an end, I plan to come to as many of these meetings as I can make myself. So I'm here partly just to listen to your deliberations tonight, but Gaston kindly offered me an opportunity to catch you up on our projects. So to the newcomers, let me say that I spoke to this group in May, and I won't repeat that, but I think you actually have a recording of that if you want to sort of poke around in what I said earlier. I've been reading your plan recently. I don't feel like I'm on top of all of it, but my eye kind of got stuck on your 5-year goal of having 20 new affordable home ownership opportunities that you've supported or initiated. So I have a stake in our experiencing one another as organizations, as partners in this effort. We exist basically to promote affordable ownership in Amherst. A parallel goal for us, however, is neighborhood stabilization. So while part of our portfolio is new build, much of it is rescuing family homes that would otherwise be acquired very quickly by speculative investors. And the rents very quickly go out of reach of families and working people in that situation. So we cultivate the awareness within neighborhoods that are especially at risk of our work. And after about a decade of doing that, that's really paying off. We've suddenly have the experience of people coming forward almost faster than we can handle them, inquiring whether we would partner with them to be sure that they could sell their home affordably, and there would be someone who would be able to manage what they need to get over a whole range of circumstances. So I do have 3 slides, which I hope I can go through in just about 3 minutes because it does help. So if I can, do I have permission to share? Will it allow me to share if I click yes? It will. Okay. From the beginning.
Should be loading right there. It is.
There you go.
Yes, it is. And I can still see most of you. So this is a very quick recap of information that I did share in May with some update. We have 4 active projects at the time. We have 7 families already in residence, and these are our 4 active projects. They were at the stage when I last spoke in which we certainly hoped they would all fall in place, but there were a lot of action was needed. And this summer has been very productive, particularly 61 Fearing Street. We're very close to scheduling a closing. This is an example of one of our models. The house appraised at $650,000. The family, an elder member of the family was living in the house until quite recently, has now moved into senior housing close to one of her children. So her three sons are prepared to offer the house at $500,000, which is a very substantial gift on their part, but still out of range of even the 100 to 120% AMI family. So we have raised $150,000 from private donations, basically by just soliciting the neighborhood. This is a linchpin property. If it goes to speculators, it'll threaten the whole of Fearing Street, which is a mix now that we hope remains relatively stable. So we're feeling very jubilant that we're ready to go on this one. We're at the stage of scheduling a closing. 277 Lincoln needed a lot of work. That work is almost finished. The donor has been paying for that work. She's also looking forward to our actually having a closing this fall. And the simplest one is actually 20 Beston. So one of our models is that a donor can give the land and sign a ground lease, which is a contract on their part that when either they move or if they die still resident, their heirs are bound by a sale price that will make it affordable. So the one that we want to spend a little bit more time on the next couple of minutes is 174 Amity Street. So this is the slide that I showed in May, just to place it for you. This is Amity Street at the top of the picture. So the library is up 5 or 6 houses and on the other side of the street. And on this side of the street, if you walked up the street in this direction, you'd be at the Amherst Cinema, just to place it in your minds. There is an existing Victorian era residence with the potential to be divided into 3 family units. And we proposed 2 additional ones, which we would partner with Habitat to do the building. And we have since discovered we've been proceeding through our due diligence and also actually beginning design and planning, and are just about ready to settle on exactly the appropriate model to go for permitting, because we will need some accommodation for what we see as the best use of the land. So we now have full architectural drawings for the units in the historic building, which makes it easier to begin to price it accurately. One little piece of bad news we acquired, we checked for wetland, and in the southeast corner, there is a wetland patch. So we're now working with the Conservation Commission. And we had an informal conversation with them last week, and we were encouraged to submit a proposal that has the new building outside the 50-foot boundary, but they seem open to the idea that they wouldn't hold us to the 100-foot boundary. And we can comfortably fit the 2 new buildings, both of them closer to the street, whereas the original drawing we had shared with you before had one of them behind the existing house. That would be too close to the wetland area. We've recently engaged a surveyor and a civil engineer to assist us in the parts of preparing permitting application. And Habitat is on board with this project, has been participating in the planning right from the very beginning. And we've now gotten to the stage where we're working on the details of our agreement, exactly who's going to do what and what the timeline will be. And we are approaching the Community Preservation Act Fund, and we will be approaching you for support. When a few of the things that I list in the first few bullet points as activities in progress, we hope within a month, but certainly by November, to be able to come with a fully developed proposal to you for support. That is, with the due diligence at a place where you can feel comfortable that about issues of feasibility in the project. So I think I promised we'd get through this quickly. I'm happy to answer any questions. That's
okay. Thank you so much, Linda. And to put a few things in perspective that we've talked about, but to connect them here, we voted to recommend to the planning board last year that we supported this downtown project not having affordable homes in lieu of making a payment. That payment, a very big check, handwritten check, was deposited recently. And so, we have resources that are really for the purpose of getting replacement homes for the homes that weren't built. And so this project has particular appeal to me in being a downtown project. Of course, that other project was rentals. This is home ownership, but the trust has expressed its commitment to enhancing affordable home ownership in Amherst as well. I think that what is interesting and challenging is that this is a kind of a first time development experience for the community land trust, right? This is a big project. And so, I'm going to be very curious to know who's going to be the project manager. And I'm also curious to know what's the kind of plan between when, funds would hopefully be coming from the Community Preservation Act. In a year from now, what is the plan for the property between acquisition and starting the development project? These are some of the questions that are on my mind, and I wonder what questions are on your mind, members of the trust, that we might pose to Linda while she's here. Of course, this is just kind of foreshadowing. The formal proposal is not before us, but it's an exciting project and a great opportunity for the town if this vision could become materialized.
Do you want me to actually answer the question?
Sure. I think sure. Since no one's jumped to raise their hand yet, please do.
Okay. So we have a working group that's been meeting bi-weekly since just about this time last year. I think probably the definition of project manager at the moment, I'm the project manager, in the sense that I'm sort of keeping all the pieces moving toward the goal. The other members of the working group include two people with very substantial experience in this kind of work. One is the architect Bruce Coldham, who is doing this work pro bono. Like Habitat, there are many parallels to Habitat as well as their actual partnership. We depend heavily on the expertise of people who would otherwise be quite costly to a developer who was doing this for profit. So Bruce is volunteering his time and doing the design work and also advising this. Over the course of his career, he has served on at least one of the town committees, although he doesn't at the moment, that would be reviewing this. So he's very knowledgeable about the questions that come up around permitting, for example. We also have the good fortune to have Seth Lawrence Slavas on our working group. You may not all know that name. Seth Lawrence Slavas is the president of Wright Builders and has worked for them for a long time, worked his way up to being president when Jonathan Wright finally retired. And Seth works for a very upmarket builder, and his heart is in affordable housing. He's also on the board of Habitat. And he's well known in the trade, so to speak, for being very interested in what they can do to further affordable housing. So both Bruce and Seth worked on a much smaller scale project, a single home on Beston Street. And that was the occasion of getting to know them. And when I called them to very diffidently ask if they would visit the site with me and just advise ACLT as to whether it was realistic to think of taking this on, they were all in when they saw the opportunity. So they've been proceeding. The drawings I referred to, those are all Bruce Coldham's drawings. If you've seen his drawings before, you recognize his hand. That we also have Hetty Startup, who serves on the historical commission. This is not a historical house per se. but it certainly has features that are historically interesting. One of the design features, the new build that will be close to the street, will be carefully designed so its street-facing side would, at first glance, you would think it's been the next door neighbor of the Victorian building for a long time, rather than being an interruption in the streetscape. And Hetty has been invaluable in terms of advice. And then our treasurer, Rob Crowner, serves on this working group. Who am I forgetting? Oh, the donor.
Yeah.
The donor family is the Gross family. Their grandparents lived in that house for decades. It is now the property of 3 siblings. And Deborah Gross actually approached the town some time ago to just explore whether the town had any interest in her grandparents' property becoming affordable housing. And Nate Malloy, bless his heart, sent her to us. And here we are. So she actually works on the working group. She's an experienced grant writer, has worked in the nonprofit sector as part of her career in Boston for a long time. Well, mostly in the arts, but she has a good sense of how these things proceed. So that's the level of expertise we bring. Bruce has made an explicit commitment to doing the architectural work, and Seth is cheerfully serving on the working committee, but I have yet to approach him explicitly. I actually had this conversation earlier with Greg and Nate Malloy as to whether we needed to go out for bid for a builder, or could we approach someone that we had confidence we could work with. So it's on my to-do list now to begin to explore with Seth whether Wright Builders themselves would be interested in being the builder, and explore with my board whether they're happy with going with that or whether we want to have some kind of bidding process. But we will, in any case, have an experienced builder. So the construction supervisor, as opposed to the project manager, will be a person with experience, both at this scale and with houses of this type, not just new build. The drawings that Bruce is being very sensitive to the interior of the house, which, although it's been rental for a long time and needs a facelift, has been kept in good condition, and it retains a wonderful collection of its original features, like 2 huge embossed tin ceilings that look like they were just put up in the 2 main rooms.
Okay, good. So good. Your volunteer team has a lot of expertise, and that's a very strong start. And maybe before we wrap up, Linda, can you walk us through the vision of your timeline?
Yeah. Well, let's see how to put this. We know what the family wants. The family is prepared to accept an offer of $475,000 for this property, which is, depending on what you take to be its market value, it's about half of what Zillow thinks it's worth. However, we have had it formally appraised. And the appraiser, who had complete access to the interior and knows how much updating is required, came in well below Zillow. But in the meantime, the family had agreed that they would accept $475,000 for the whole property. So we can close basically as soon as we have the money to acquire it. So our immediate goal is to acquire sufficient funds. We have enough funds in hand to do the pre-acquisition work, although we do have a grant of CDBG funds in the FY25 round. Right now, the town is waiting to hear whether our bosses higher up the line are going to eat that money rather than give it to Massachusetts. But it is part of the town's proposal to the state for CDBG funds to pay this about $65,000 in pre-acquisition costs. if push comes to shove, we can cover those costs, although we would prefer to have that, having won that proposal. And that together with the actual property acquisition and the related, again, smaller scale legal, that would be the first step, is to actually acquire the property. We are thinking of asking the CPA, where the money would first be available almost a year from now, July 1st. By that time, we will be more than ready to begin the renovation of the old building. And again, the effort will be mostly, well, a major effort on permitting will go along in parallel over those months. So acquisition, permitting, or perhaps permitting acquisition, because whoever funds the acquisition may want to see the permit already in place. So we move forward on both those fronts at once, fundraising and permitting. And then we hope next summer, again, pending fundraising, and this will be our approach to Community Preservation Act Fund, to begin the renovation. With good luck and a following wind, we could have families in place by a year from Christmas in the old building. And then Habitat is expecting that they will, in the meantime, be fundraising for the new build. They will be offered a ready site. We will do the permitting work and the site preparation, and except for the details that the builder would have to do. And they are expecting that that will be on their calendar to do the new build at the earliest in fiscal 27. So their families will be in place later, but we plan to do at least initial rounds of marketing together, so that everybody that comes into the community understands that they're part of a project of a certain scale. And by the way, we expect to form a homeowners association just for these homeowners, because they will have to make decisions about their landscaping and play space and things like that, and upkeep. The rest of our homes are scattered all around Amherst, so we intend to actually form an HOA for this cluster.
And Linda, is your vision that you would be landlords for the first year then?
Yes, that is, there are sitting tenants in the building, although Deborah has been candid with them about the plans, and some of them have left. I'm not sure whether an effort's being made to refill the rooms, given that the earliest they would absolutely have to move out. Well, when we start construction, it will be uncomfortable, although you can do a lot of things and still have not need to displace the tenants, but
all right.
We will hold the property for an interval. I need to check that nothing has changed since the last time we bought property. And when we bought our property on North Amherst, our first partnership with Habitat, they did the build on it. We discovered that we have 2 years grace before we have to pay property tax on property that's in that transition phase. But we will be fiscally responsible for it for an interval before we realize the revenue from sales. So we have a commitment from Five College Credit Union for a bridge loan. Okay.
Very good, Linda. Well, I think we have a view of the scope of your vision and how you hope it plays out, and we look forward to kind of seeing it in the next phase of concreteness. One big round of concreteness further down the line.
Thank you very much for giving us this time. I know you have a lot on your minds tonight.
Yeah.
I'm going to be an observer for the rest of the meeting.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you so much.
Also, yeah, I know you're trying to move this along, but any of you who want to are very welcome to contact me or Maura, who's sitting here also. Maura is the clerk of our corporation, and many of you would recognize her name from the Amherst Indy, I think. But we plan to be available if questions occur to you later, particularly if you're new members and would like some personal introduction to what our model is and what we're doing.
Wonderful. All right. Well, then I guess you can hear how we proceed. So, Greg, I think we've got our kind of internal updates next, right? Or some town updates.
Yeah, town updates. I can go back to my
Okay.
slides here. Hopefully you've all got my slides. So, yeah, some quick updates on a few things. Some of which you've heard about before. One of which is new. The engagement we're doing with the South Amherst School project, and hopefully folks can see my slides. Yep. That is the one down on what is known as Fiddler's Green or the South Amherst Common. And we're working again with what is now known an architecture firm known as Joy Squared, but made up of principals of the Narrow Gate, who we worked with on the VFW project, or that sort of short-term engagement. So Joy Squared is sort of in kind of early design phases right now, coming up just with some concepts, and they will hopefully we'll have a public presentation of that final product, which will be 3 different possible directions the town could head in. Sometime probably looking at, I'm guessing, late October now, in that, where we are, it's kind of moving a little bit based on our ability to schedule meetings with town staff and them. But we did a public meeting up in June. We've been conversing with affordable home developers on viability and kind of looking at that. And we are kind of discovering some interesting stuff around permitting and just sort of how the site looks from the perspective of different types of affordable home developers. And so there's going to be some good information there. We're in the housing production plan. It's kind of the other thing happening right now. Some of you who've been on the trust have heard a great deal about that and offered feedback starting over a year ago. And that is now in a draft form that we've had since early June. The council did send it to committee. The Community Resources Committee met today. I wasn't able to be there myself, but I think it was more of an initial look, at it. Goal, I think, is for the Community Resources Committee not to hang on to it for too long and to get it back to the council in November sometime, hopefully for approval, and we would then send it on to the state for their approval, of the housing production plan. But they met today, and certainly I'm told the CRC committee or the CRC, I should say, will probably look at it again on the 25th of this month. The inclusionary fee in lieu adjustment. Oh, okay. This happens every time. My screen went black for a second. The in lieu fee adjustment, which we, as the trust sponsored, is moving right along. That is the CRC and Planning Board have both closed their hearings on it and sent some recommendations back to the council, and those recommendations are largely complementary. There's no real conflicts there between them. The council should be able to get it to the forgetting what GOL stands for, but something in legislation. But basically, it's a subcommittee that looks at this kind of thing, and they will hopefully be able to get to it on Tuesday, or on the 6th. Sorry. Actually thinking these dates might be a little late, and maybe I might have put this date down before I got an email from the council liaison. But in any case, it's coming. And no later than the 20th will be the second reading, is my understanding of it. The ADU ordinance update for the town to comply with the new state legislation requiring us to approve accessory dwelling units by right also continues apace. And I think, informally, I've heard is coming around the bend in both CRC and the planning board. And the interesting thing about that, which I'm super excited about in particular, is by law, the town has to approve a type of accessory dwelling unit, which is the state calls a protected use unit, meaning most homeowners are eligible to build one, by right, with just basically, as long as it meets building code. But Amherst is, and the big difference on the protected use ADU is no town can require owner occupancy of that ADU. What Amherst is going to, so, in conversations right now, and this could change when it gets to the council, but the idea remains in strong consideration that the town, along with the protected use ADU, also does what they're calling a local ADU, which would basically allow for a larger building. So instead of the 900 square foot protected use ADU, it would allow for, I'm not sure where they are right now, but somewhere around 11 or 1200 feet, a slightly larger unit. Those 200 or 300 square feet are significant. The local ADU would require owner occupancy of one of the units. So, and what that does basically is it creates, a different avenue, for possibly an entity like the Community Land Trust to do creative stuff, or if folks want to have a bigger ADU and commit to ownership, that's their right too. So I think there might down the line be creative ways to use that for neat ownership stuff, along with the protected use one, which would be available for owners or renters. And then the last thing, which has been in the news, there's a Gazette item that I just recently saw about it. It's been in a few different sources, is that there is a exploration right now by Beacon Communities, which is which is the same developer that did North Square, which is the former Kohl's property. And the Beacon Communities concept is just that right now. They have not made any kind of proposal to the town other than sort of informal questioning and doing, right now they're basically doing due diligence on the property. They've made it public that they're doing that due diligence, but there's not a formal submission to the town yet. That said, though, the concept, as I understand it, in fairly modest form, I haven't gotten a formal deep presentation on it, but is that it's probably two separate projects. Separate, one a senior building of around 90 units, and then one a family affordable building at something around 110 or 120 units is the current vision for it, which is early. But and all those would be affordable. So a pretty neat addition to our stock of affordable homes. It's likely that they'd be seeking resources from various parts of town, possibly tax relief or money from CPA. It's conceivable they could come to us. So that and that's as a fairly big project. That would go through a fair amount of process around different committees in town. The site is not impossible. There are wetlands on the site. There's some navigation to do there. So it's very early, but it's an exciting prospect for some affordable homes. And then if we can still see slides, the big reveal, which we gave away as the other big update, is we received the fee in lieu for the town, really for the trust's use for the South Amherst project, or the South Pleasant Street project. And so that's now in bank account and part of our trust balance. So those are kind of my quick updates. And I'm apologies. I'm going to refresh here, and if I lose, I will come right back.
Okay. Yeah, Allegra, please.
So this might sound like a stupid thing to ask, but could somebody from the town be in touch with the school committee? Because they keep on talking about putting the 6th grade academy at South Amherst. And I keep on sending them our information, telling them that we've been in the process of like citing something there potentially for because
that's helpful feedback, and yes,
because my understanding again is that they turned it over to the town.
Yeah, that's my understanding as well, but I haven't seen the paper. So I will, I'll look into that and talk to the appropriate folks in that regard, and have myself or somebody, maybe Dave or Rob reach out.
Perfect.
Thanks, Allegra.
Well, it's a good set of updates. Our kind of policy influence is showing up in that in lieu adjustment, and the check also showed up. So now we've got some money that we need to deploy. And so I think that that's a nice segue into our our check-in now and figuring out how we're gonna turn that necessity into reality. Maybe so we are at that part of the meeting, right, Greg?
We are, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Why don't we kick off with Hijay and Bob sharing their first pass at stakeholder mapping, which is I think a great exercise to open our mind a little bit to our network and how we can pull resources together.
Sure, let me get the presentation up. Bob, I do apologize, kind of cobbled something together last minute, but nothing's really shouldn't be that surprising. Okay, can everybody see my screen? Great. Okay, so what is a stakeholder map? So those of us who were at the meeting that we had at Town Hall, Bob had mentioned a desire to kind of just like he'd like to understand who the stakeholders are. And stakeholders loosely, like people say stakeholders, but basically it's those who are affected by or we interact with. It's just basically anybody, any sort of level of interaction is considered a stakeholder. And it's designed to be a visual way to help people or like help us really understand who the people, the organizations that are in contact with us essentially. So I kind of laid out like the stages in which how a stakeholder map works. This is not a concept that we came up with. This is a concept that's just been around from like project management basics. And so once you have your list of stakeholders, a way to kind of, we have a lot, by the way, that have already been identified. I'm sure there are even more that we could add into the list, but basically a good way to start categorizing your stakeholders and then eventually get to a point where we sort of just kind of understand holistically how are we interacting with those stakeholders is to plot along an influence and interest axis. So very kind of like semi-quantitative why would we want to do that? It's basically we want to be able to quickly identify how a particular stakeholder interacts with the trust fund, sort of the trust, and then as we sort of understand our stakeholder map, you can also use it to opportunistically assess if there are any gaps or things that we should be maintaining better a relationship essentially. And then I sort of alluded to this before. It's also nice to kind of just document a typical engagement strategy, especially for key stakeholders, just so that, especially as a new member of this committee, I'm sure people can really benefit from just kind of understanding how the business of the committee works. Yeah, any questions so far? I feel free to just kind of jump in.
Yeah, I would just add, this is primarily motivated from being new and trying to understand the lay of the land. It's also a draft at this stage, so it's not a final product, and it'll probably change as well as the relationships develop and so on. But yeah, we hope it's helpful.
Yeah, so how does this work? So I'm going to focus on one of the key pieces. Obviously, listing out your stakeholders, and I'll get to the actual working sheet in a minute. But once you have that, I mentioned putting through a influence and interest kind of metric on each of the stakeholders. And this is just a rubric that we drafted. As I mentioned, it's semi-quantitative, so you just kind of rank high, medium, low for both interest and influence. I'm not going to read through the whole slide, but just to kind of highlight, like, let's say influence, it's anybody, like, since there's like a huge money component to the trust, anybody sort of has sort of control over how that funding gets to us, or like, you know, the whole fact that this whole committee exists, like that's a high amount of influence on the trust, as an example. A low amount of influence is someone or an organization that doesn't necessarily weigh in on the decision-making process of the stuff that was discussed in some of these meetings. And then you have a whole side on the interests, who really benefits from it, who has an interest in affordable housing, but also has competing priorities, and then the whole like range of it. That's kind of how you generally get a rubric out of it. And I'm going to quickly, and I realize I shared just the application, so I'm gonna have to redo this. Apologies. Make sure I actually have it up. It's just a Google sheet. The first list is, as I said, just you list out all the stakeholders that you know, including us. And then it's just a couple things that might help, like what type of organization are we talking about? Is it within the town government? Is it a partner? That's all. This is all draft, as Bob mentioned, and then a ranking. All this is just kind of draft rankings. Just don't take this as gospel. And then hopefully we have some sort of documented engagement approach and maybe a previous interaction. Jumping back to the PowerPoint. This is something that I'm not in love with because of all the overlapping names, but you try to get a visual out of it, and the idea is that it's a quick way to kind of snapshot. Oh, this is a person that, given a certain work stream, tells us, okay, yeah, this person needs to be on some sort of communication chain, and we need to get their feedback in order to make sure the decision is well communicated, or even if we need a specific we need to engage them before a decision is made, for example. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Yeah. Seeking feedback. Does the rubric make sense? We obviously need help ranking stakeholders along the axes. It's always good to test your model. I'm a scientist, so just testing your model and making sure that it actually makes sense to you as it aligns with your expectations. And then lastly, how can this tool help with what the housing trust work on?
Well, that last question, I wonder, working on this, what ideas did you think of for how getting this kind of clarity can become something that we take advantage of?
Well, I guess, you know, in the midst of a project, I mean, maybe if we even think of the Amity Street that the land trust is looking at. So as we start in with discussions, and again, particularly for those of us who are new, like who else should we be talking about? Or if someone comes to us and like, who is this group? How does it relate to us? So it's, I think, foremost sort of a just informational for us. But it can also then be, I think, some institutional memory going forward. So I think one of the columns in there was, you know, examples, interactions that we've had already. So in the future, if you've got a record of that, oh, well, you know, we worked on the East Gables with this group, and this was our contact there. It's just a quick reference, or could be a helpful reference. I think, you know, some of you who've been at it a while, you sort of have this internalized, or you've got it in the equivalent of a Rolodex somewhere, but hopefully this would sort of serve that kind of purpose.
I guess just responding, that's helpful. And then I guess you're asking what other possible data, or I wonder if you can add whether it's geographic or other parameters that would allow us to sort them accordingly, according to, like you just said, Bob. So what would be the searches or sorts that would get us to focus on the right players? In any case, having a long list that you can look at is extremely helpful on its own.
Right.
Remember.
This is where I think we're going to have to feel it out, and I think it's going to matter depending on what we're actually trying to accomplish. If it's more or less like education related aspect, the map is going to be very different from assessing a development project, for example.
What do others think? Questions or reactions or suggestions?
I'm kind of curious which ones were the most challenging for you guys to classify, either in terms of influence or, either on either scale.
Given that we haven't really vetted any of it was mostly to fill the space and just kind of like test out the map. I wouldn't say we were really equipped to say any particular stakeholder is hard to rank at this moment.
Yeah, a lot of unknowns for us.
Right.
Okay, Greg.
Yeah, and I just, reiterating some feedback from earlier today. I think there's, to me, this suggests a fun collaborative conversation, maybe in a subcommittee of, sort of, folks with some institutional knowledge, offering some insights on where to rank different entities or people or organizations. And the other thing that I want to know, just specifically in terms of communication or community education, I think it's a really interesting tool to both like look, where to help prioritize communication efforts in narrow audiences, for example, to say, hey, let's look at a quadrant and figure out, a communication framework for just this targeted quadrant, of high influence, high interest people, or, whatever the combination is. That could be a really interesting way to organize and strategically focus on engagement. And then also to sort of look at, especially entities that might have something in common and say, hey, here's where they are now. And then ask ourselves, where do we need to move this set of entities on this grid? That might be a neat way to think about, which relationships we want to grow and in which directions, et cetera. So yeah, I think it suggests a lot of neat collaborative work and can help align us as a group too.
Great. Thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, I think it'll be fun to apply it and use it in our decision making and planning. I think it seems particularly useful for the education and outreach work to kind of have that awareness. Well, in light of time, why don't we keep hearing from different folks on updates since our last meeting. Carla, I guess you had a chance to talk to Greg and get an update on what's going on with Craig's Doors.
Yeah, I mean, I think our goal during the time we spent together, and Greg, you can correct me as well, was just to kind of, I wanted to get up to speed on that project and get a sense of, the players and just how things were moving forward, where we'd come from, where we're going. So, and moving forward, I think the idea was just gonna, and it's a little bit complicated, as you know, because there's a leadership change at Craig's Doors right now. So they're kind of having an interim leader, but just, I'm in the building usually on at least a weekly basis. So just going to make a point to kind of work on building and maintaining those relationships. I mean, I'm representing different, couple different things, being a member of the church, but also a member of the board, but, and just an interested member of the community with that particular population. But I don't know if you want to add anything, Greg, about that piece.
No, I think you summed up pretty well, and I think, sort of just, and it seems like a lot of this work is about engagement, and some of it's very strategic and focused and, targeted. And I think some of it is just sort of relational, and I think, the trust will benefit from both, and I think, Carla is really well positioned to, sort of help you bridge, over to, what's happening at ILC right now and all that. So.
Yes, thank you for helping us have eyes and ears and hearts in the space, Carla. I think that's excellent for the trust.
Looking forward to it. So
good. Alex, anything you want to share from your side?
Yeah, I'm happy to share. Let's say it's a draft of a draft of
Okay,
the
all right,
flyer.
good.
I just focused on kind of getting some information chunked out on the page. So let me go ahead and share that. So I promise it'll look better before I'm done. This is mostly, I think, just an opportunity for our new members to see kind of the elevator pitch mission statement that we've been working on and to think about what would be helpful. Hopefully you can see my screen.
It has to get to the moon and back.
Right.
There we go.
Okay. Cool. So I'll give our new members a chance to read through the top little blurb. So our top line summary.
Great. Well, I mean, I like the way you center the strategy, introduce us. So, I mean, speaking for myself, I might have a couple of minor, ideas, but I like the format and the way you center the strategy as a way of explaining who we are.
Yeah. I haven't given a ton of thought as to what else is on this in terms of on the back. I'd heard a couple different ideas at various times from the trust. One of them being an explainer of what do we mean when we say affordable housing, thinking about like an AMI breakdown sheet. Another one being a list of resources for people. Another one being ways that people can be involved and engaged with the trust. So I'm happy to take direction on that now, or to wait and reconvene with Allegra and Greg in our subcommittee with anybody else who may be joining us. And I promise I'll work to keep refining this too. But like I said, mostly an opportunity to let our new members see and comment on the top line.
Yeah, EJ.
Yeah, great work. This is definitely, I love the designs. It's got really clear fonts. Can you just kind of quickly remind me what the sort of like intended use case might be? Like help us frame this, because that's what I'm kind of lost on.
Yeah, honestly, I'm a little lost on it too. So any of our older members, Allegra, I know we had talked about something that we could have when we were playing or at events that would help explain who we were. I don't know if you had more visions for it.
Example would be like the block party. So I feel like last year we had.
Oh yeah, that's coming
like
up. We better talk about that tonight.
Yeah, like last year we had like a board, like visions that people could add, but I don't think we had anything really about what we were doing. So I think like something clear and concise to describe us was kind of what came out of that conversation, kind of in our debrief of how things went in our interactions with people. But I also think if we were like other community events, but I think also it could be helpful for if they're, I don't know, if somebody has a lot of money and is like, I don't know what I want to do with my money. And you're like, here,
Yeah, I hear you. It's
don't know
sort
how
of
often
like a
that would be.
murky, sort of general use, kind of informative flyer. I think probably the only thing I would say is like there's no mention of like a website or anything that people can go to. I think that'd be like an easy thing to just add to just make sure we direct people to ways in which they can continue to engage and not just get information off of this one flyer.
Could we do a QR code?
QR codes, yeah, that's
exactly.
right. Yeah.
Something that directs, like someone just knows, okay, this is where I go.
Yeah.
Bob, did you have your hand or did you? Yeah.
Exact same thing. I was just going to suggest a QR code.
Okay. And you can make pretty QR codes these days.
You can, yeah.
Yeah. Excellent. So do you think do you have the like a text file that you could send around in case people have little points? Like one little point was to maybe introduce the residents first before the staff. Sorry, Greg. But I mean, the trust is made up of residents, first of all, I think. Yeah. Okay.
Like are you asking for a way to provide like offline comments?
Yeah, yes. So yeah, if Greg could send around the text, then we could give whatever little suggestions we might have that they can take into consideration.
I will send that to Greg right now.
But I'm glad that we mentioned the block party because I did not kind of see it coming from with my trust hat on. It is in 1 week. Greg, did you see it coming with your trust hat on?
Maybe a couple days ago. No, I did not. I mean, I will say, last year we had that HPP's, sort of outreach channel, and we had, the trust was working on its plan too. So I think the questions would be A, like what's the hook, and then B, can we staff it?
Right.
I don't know if I can commit myself to staffing it. So that's
yes, no, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. All right. So unless someone is excited to chair a table, I think we do the block party on even years.
I will say, I think the DEI department's going to be there, and the HRC or the Human Rights Commission and the Community Safety Committee are going to be there. So if we did have a flyer, that could be like another place, since those are
Okay.
groups that we have in fact partnered with in the past. And I will be there for a little while, so I can
Okay. So what do we, obviously it's not that hard to print a flyer on some cardstock. Can we give ourselves a deadline of Monday morning to give any feedback? I mean, I guess, but we're in the middle of the semester, Alex. Do you think that you'd have a chance to kind of make our prototype, based on the feedback, and so we could run a small print job for Thursday? Rob, please go ahead.
Yeah. I just want to mention for the block party, I'm actually running an organization.
You're running the block party.
Yes. So anything that we can, I can do to help in that regard. With printing and stuff, I'm obviously going to be there, the entire day. So if we need something to be printed and put on the table, make sure everything kind of looks good, I can obviously do that and oversee that. I obviously won't be able to table, but as to having someone there on the day to do a few things, I'm obviously around, right. So can take things on, and also in regards to any logistical questions or anything, please let me know. I'll be happy to help.
Fabulous. Then let's take the nudge here and do a prototype if it makes sense. Alex.
Yeah, I was going to ask Greg, if you were to print these, when is the latest that you would need them to comfortably have time to print them?
Let's say close of business Wednesday.
Okay, so if I can get a mock-up done this weekend and send it out by Sunday, Greg, are you able to pass it on by Monday? Does that leave people enough time to comment?
Oh yeah, so we can have a short comment window from Monday morning to Tuesday to Tuesday end of business. Is that, and then you can get it again Tuesday night, Alex, and yeah, okay. And then maybe Greg can coordinate with Rob and Allegra to see that they get out to the right place.
Sure. And yeah, and I think I can, I can certainly, go see Pamela and Phil and Philip. And I actually wonder one strategic thing, and I'd want to ask Laura. I don't know if she's still in the audience or not, but one interesting approach, if they don't already have a table, Rob, maybe if Valley CDC has a table, we could put some sort of
Yes.
advertisement around
Yes.
the 100%, around their outreach on the other side, while we're still figuring out what to put in the backside of it.
All right, I think we've got a loose process that's going to work to not miss this opportunity. Allegra, thanks for kind of bringing us a little focus on that one. Good. And Rob, thanks for volunteering your assistance. I'm sure you're very busy.
And to clarify, so Alex, you're going to send me a more updated version than what you just sent me by Sunday?
Correct. Yeah. What I just sent you was just the mission statement. Okay.
Okay. I will not distribute what you just sent. I'll wait until you send me something else. Okay.
Yeah, and also just as I just checked Valley CDC, not tabling.
They do or they do not? No table. Okay, so I'll reach out to Laura and Jess and see if I can. And I'll see. Alex, is that 8.5 by 11?
Yeah, but I can make it a different size if you'd rather.
Okay, let me see what they have, and so we can.
I think maybe the the half size of that might something that you can. I mean, I'm not a marketing expert here, but something maybe a little smaller that you're inclined to take and fold in half and put in your pocket or something.
Like a postcard.
It could be as small as a postcard, or like the big size postcard that they use to promote clubs or something. The other big thing on our horizon, folks, is the next deadline to apply for CPA funds ourselves. And it's an interesting moment to be applying because we've gotten this other check, and so we need to be really clear about why we should be funded. And I think part of it is having a clear story about how we're going to deploy the funds that we already have. And so I would like to see if there are, one or two people who would be interested in just kind of being part of the collaboration of getting that proposal together. What is the commitment? I think it would be a meeting to talk through strategy with Greg and me, and then being in the kind of revision chain of the draft. You can ponder it. So this is something that we're going to have to do, and I think you can see why there's some artfulness that's going to be involved here. Bob, please.
So timing wise, what's the deadline for the application?
Is it 2.5 weeks, Greg? Do we have that?
It is the 30th of this month. So 19 days. Yeah, 2.5 weeks. And so it probably would be good to target a meeting next week.
Yeah.
And I'll also say too, I think last year a small group crafted it, and then we did have a recollection it's a little foggy, but I think we shared it to the full group before we submitted it.
We did. We did give folks a chance to comment. Allegra.
I don't know that I would be available for a meeting, but I could certainly be a reviewer if that would be helpful.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah. And, really these are volunteer committees. So we're kind of, we know what it's like to be on this side of the table, so to speak. And so, yes, thank you, Allegra.
I'm sort of in a similar boat, meeting, I'm not sure, but I need to be in the reviewing.
Okay, thank you very much. TJ.
I could potentially be available for a meeting, so I guess like pencil me in, but we
Okay.
would need
All
to
right.
coordinate.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think we can figure something out. We'll get an email started. Thank you very much. Good. So what other business do we want to address this evening, Greg, or anyone else, please? Yes, Allegra.
I just wanted to make everybody aware, if you are not already, through emails from the network, that there is a push for a ballot initiative for rent control measures. And so the campaigns are going to be kicking off across the state to try and get signatures. And I believe there will be something locally in Springfield, I think will be the hub of their Western Mass outreach. But personally, I think that could be something to think about throwing our support behind if it becomes a reality. So just wanted to put that on the radar if it's not there already.
Great, thank you. And there was I'm on an email thread for the folks that are pushing to have the local option to do a transfer tax, particularly on expensive homes, which would generate local income that could be used for, affordable homes and other things. And so I guess they had a very good hearing earlier this week. The folks working on that were cheering, just to share another kind of statewide initiative that's going on right now relating to housing. So in terms of how we focus our energy next, we haven't quite reconstituted into new committees at this moment. I think that's okay. But I'm curious if people have thoughts about what might be a good scope or kind of definition of a committee. I mean, we just to remind you all how we got here, we basically just created committees out of the pillars of the strategy, and that had some value to it. But I think that maybe we want to be more project oriented as opposed to those broad themes, because development and funding are interlaced, and maybe focusing on how those apply in given initiatives or projects might be more effective. And so in the short term, I'm concerned with the CPA application. I think the other initiative that I'd like to put out there would be to develop a possibly either a grant initiative or revolving loan fund to support something Greg and I talked about, to support the kind of exploration before you purchase a piece of land or get into a project, to fund that pre-development work of sizing up whether something is feasible. And so we could kind of earmark part of our current bank account for that kind of work. We could put out a call for proposals. We could look for projects to fund. That's one way that we might decide to deploy our resources and our energy. And I'm curious if that's resonating with anyone, whether or not you are interested personally in working on that. Do you think that that's a good direction for the trust to go in? Yeah, Alex.
I mean, for myself, I'd certainly be interested in hearing more about it. I'd just ask that when that information be shared, we make sure we center it and align it with some of the action items that we've already identified in our strategic plan for the trust, to make sure that we're staying on mission in that way.
Yep. Okay. Yes, I mean, this would be in the the development in getting things moving. And I guess the motivation for it is to put us a little bit in the catalytic role, as opposed to just come to the parents and ask for money. Like, instead of just being passively receiving the initiatives that others may come up with on their own, can we actually catalyze some initiatives? Can we be kind of getting projects inspired, as opposed to just waiting for the right projects to come to us? Allegra.
I like that idea, and I also have some concerns about, like, if we keep on spending all this money on things that end up not being developable, then that would concern me. Like, and perhaps there's a revisiting clause in whatever that is. If, if we spend X amount of money and nothing comes to fruition, then we
Yes,
redirect our attention or something.
no doubt. I mean, I think the idea, the fledgling idea here would be to budget X amount of money out of our funds for that purpose. And so it would naturally be, okay, so we got through that. How was this a good idea? Was it effective? EJ.
Yeah, I think to build on what you just said, it's basically we don't quite know what the projects that we can let's say we just kind of pick a nominal but like smaller portion of the rather large sum that we saw on Greg's slide. And it is in my opinion, I do agree that like proactively seeking what we can do with that money makes a little bit more sense than kind of waiting to see what people might ask for. I think that's kind of the strategically I like that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think our biggest failure would be to not spend the money that we have. That would be really unfortunate. Greg.
Yeah, and just to sort of flesh out the vision. I mean, so you may have mentioned, but one advantage and to like a revolving loan fund like this, just for those newer to the trust, or development stuff, is pre-development money is generally like the hardest to find for developers of all types, really affordable and otherwise. And so this is a way, this can be a way to draw developers in, if that resource exists and is relatively easy to access. There's different ways to format it, but often how it works is, if a project, is, like we're assuming some amount of risk with pre-development investment, right? But then, presuming the project comes through, that gets paid back when there's a construction loan or when there's permanent equity financing that comes with the later stage money, is the basic idea. An example of where that might be a valuable tool is that South Amherst school site. We don't have a full report yet from Joy Square, but one of the things that we're learning is that the ceiling of units on that site, for sort of standard affordable housing developers, the way that they perceive it is the inputs would be similar to something 3 times the size, as far as their time and resources and risk, but the payoff would be less, and so there'd be more hesitancy than there might be for a larger site. So making pre-development funds available might entice a developer to take action on that site where they might not without a front end subsidy.
Okay, we're getting close to wrap up, but let's tie off this conversation. Bob.
Yeah, I think the general idea is a good one, with some kind of guideline as to or maybe a proportion of our overall budget. But my question is actually about our overall budget. So with the big check that's come in, what's the total current balance that we have? And then also, what's the timing then for the next tranche of CPA funding? When does it actually come in?
If it's approved.
If it's approved,
If it's approved, yeah.
Thinking positively.
So our current balance for for development funds is $1,339,000. And that includes the in lieu fee payment, and it includes the deduction of support for Amherst Community Homes, which was 2 large chunks. So that's kind of what the resources are there. And then out there somewhere, and I haven't heard, is another $40,000 from the faith-based group that is in the process of dissolving very slowly. And
for new members, there's a nonprofit that's dissolving. They had $40,000 left, and they're turning it over to us. So that's coming at some point.
Yeah.
So I mean, the reality is the trust has never had so much money in the bank, and I see that as kind of scary because we need to deploy it. It's of use to nobody in the bank. So we can't think of it the same way as you think about your own bank account. We got to make this money work. That's what it's there for. And so I guess with that, welcome any kind of reactions to that theme or ideas. But otherwise, I think it's important to keep our commitment to wrap up on time. So, yes, Greg. Yeah.
No, I was just going to say, I think we've heard from 2 members of our audience, but but Ruby's here, and I want to make sure we I certainly want to recognize Ruby McElwain Yates, who is here on behalf of Representative Dome's office, and we really appreciate you being here, Ruby. If you want to, you don't have to, but if you want to raise your hand, we can welcome comment, or Maura or Linda are also still in the audience. But we've covered that base.
Yeah.
So, all right. Yeah.
Okay. All right, folks. Well, I thank you all for being here. I know that a lot of our meeting today was kind of taking in information, which is less engaging than kind of working and kicking things around. But it's really important. We are here to hear from the community and serve as connectors. And so thank you for being here, and we're going in the right direction. Let's get our name out there next week. Thanks to the volunteers who are going to make that happen. Stay tuned for an email from Greg with Alex's draft, and let's see how we can give helpful suggestions. It'll be our kind of 1.0. And we can get feedback from the community actually using it. So I look forward to that. Thank you, Alex, and everyone who's going to bring that to fruition.
And an email is with a meeting notice for an invitation for a CPA conversation.
Yes. Yeah. We will get that going. All right, everybody. Thank you, and look forward to seeing you in a month.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.